Taking a peek at the 10.25-inch infotainment system inside of the Genesis G70. So you've got your basic home screen, where you're currently located, outside temperature, and swiping across brings you to a few other options. You can push the button along the top left in order to look at different user profiles. So there are 3 different options that are available. So driver 1, 2 versus guest. The big benefit of having unique profiles set up is that if there are multiple people driving the vehicle, you can have it remember things like your seat position, your phones that are connected, your presets, your maps, all your routes and things like that. So if multiple people are driving, you definitely want to set unique profiles. There are 3 maximum. So either 1, 2, or there's a guest user instead. You can push the home icon there. You can hit this little hamburger icon to turn the display off, push to bring it back again, or you can edit the home icons too. So if you wanted to change the layout, you can just do a drag and move around in order to adjust them, which is pretty neat. So and that even goes to the second page. So if you wanted to drag things around to the first page, whatever the case may be, you can, and you can just reset it back to the default instead. You can also pull this up, scan the QR code using your phone in order to access the fully digital owner's manual. But the time is on the very top, current date, and your connection level, and whether or not audio is enabled, yay or nay. And then, if you had a phone on the wireless charge pad, you can see there's also a little indication letting you know that you've got a phone that's wirelessly charging. On the home screen here, there are a ton of different options available. So let's drive in. Starting off using navigation inside the vehicle. So you've got factory nav. You can push the button along the right side in order to go full screen. I mean, that's nice. Pinch to zoom capabilities inside the map. And one thing is that as you start to drive around, you can see we've now got a route that's going. So we can push there in order to set it as a destination if we want to, or save it, point of interest icons, or circle it back out to you instead. You've got your basic home button along the top left-hand side, back into map to change up your heading view. Whether or not you get guidance volumes. So if you want turn-by-turn directions, letting you know when you've got an upcoming turn, you can enable or disable that. You can also say whether or not you want sound effects. So when you come to an upcoming turn, you'll just get a chime instead if you have that muted. You can zoom in and out this way, go into an auto mode for the map for different options. So auto mode means that it's automatically going to zoom you in or out as you get closer to an upcoming turn. You've got a menu button along the bottom left to see your nearby information. You can save your location, display traffic information, or toggle the display off. And then searching for addresses can be done a few different ways. So you can search by GPS coordinates. So it's latitude first, longitude second if you wanted to. You can search by point of interest icons. So if you wanted to search for Tim Hortons, that's available as an option. Like I said, you can search by GPS coordinates. You can start typing in your address there. And then let's choose one that's a bit further away. I'll show you why in a second. You can set it as a destination if you want. So we set it as a destination. You've got, it's the best route available. So if there were more route options available, it would tell you, but yeah, so it's saying that's the only realistic option to get there. You can add a waypoint in between. So you've essentially got your end destination, and then a waypoint is everything in between that and your final destination. So let's say if you wanted to, see nearby, and maybe you wanted to stop and get gas first, you can see which gas stations are along the way. I'm just going to select, okay, and now we've got stopping for gas first, in between getting to Tim Hortons. So you can then essentially calculate and create unique routes. So if you've got a route where you've got 5, 6, 7 stops, you've got the flexibility to do it. And then just hit calculate, and it's going to give you, same idea, the best options in order to get there, and then start guidance.
The route guidance will start now.
There we go. So you can see there, zoom out if you want to, in order to see your full route. You can cancel if you want. And then you've got your menu where you've got some other options. So if you hit route, you can reroute or look at different route options instead. And that brings you back to this screen. But if you look at additional route options, you can get the fastest, the most economical, or if you want highway preferred instead. And then you could also do a drag up and down in order to say this is your preference instead. You can go back to get back to this main screen, back out, returning to the previous route. So it's going to take a second. And if we cancel, that's cancel the route. Now, if we go back into search for a second, you can see there, we search for those 2 different addresses. So it shows them up there for us instead. You can then click again if you wanted to get back to that to the place that you've searched for. So pretty straightforward using the factory navigation inside the vehicle. There are some basics for your navigation menu. Let's see, you can save things. So specifically down at the bottom here. So saving home addresses, work addresses, and different favorites. And one of the benefits there is that you could say navigate home. You can like hit the voice command prompt. Say navigate home, navigate to work, whatever the case may be. And it's going to navigate to whatever addresses you have saved there instead. So if you tend to go to the same places all the time, you can easily save your addresses there instead. Next up is going to be adding in a phone.
Turn Bluetooth on from your device in order to search. On your device, select the name that matches vehicle name on the screen.
So we're looking for G70. You can change that. I'll show you how in a minute. PIN numbers match up, so we're going to pair. Perfect. Do I want to allow contacts and favorites to sync? I'm going to say no to that one just because this is not my car.
The contacts download is starting. Some phones require additional.
It will eventually say it's
unsuccessful.
So it said unsuccessful because I hit no when I first connected the phone. But I mean, obviously, if this is your car, you would say yes to that one. But you've got your dial pad there with your basic information. So your phone name, your connection level, and then your battery level. You can start dialing in there as well if you wanted to. Look at your messages if that were available. You could then hit this. If you wanted to dial using your voice, you can push and hold the voice command prompt on the steering wheel in order to activate your Siri assistant there instead. Pretty neat. And then you can hit this in order to get a little split screen. So if you wanted to do a split between your phone versus like maps, radio, and so many other things, you've got that flexibility. You do also have Android Auto, Apple CarPlay capabilities inside the vehicle, but you do need to be connected over a USB cable. And that's going to be a USB type A device, and you just need to make sure that it's got the data transfer icon there. So if it doesn't have the data transfer icon, it might just be a cable for charging instead. So you need to make sure that that's there, and then you're just going down the center stack, and it's the only USB device that's available there. So just going to insert from there, opposite end of the cable, into your phone, and it should take a second there. Look at that. CarPlay. Do you want to allow CarPlay while the phone is locked? Yes, you want to make sure you do that. And I mean, we are fully connected. Jump into CarPlay there. You can move around, but going back to the home screen here. So this is essentially your home screen, back to an icon view, and you can easily swipe across, but it is super responsive. You've got your current time and connection level, which map was open last, which audio application was open last, which miscellaneous application was open last, and then you've got that icon view back to the home screen there instead. Now, on the iPhone side of things, it doesn't matter if you're using Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze. There's no pinch to zoom capabilities. So you could move around using your finger there, but you're zooming in and out this way. Easily search for addresses. Like I said, Google Maps, exact same thing. So you can drag around this way, go up or down this way in order to zoom in or out. You can then change. So this is Google Maps, so adjust for route options. So if you wanted if you wanted to avoid highway driving, toll roads, or ferries, you've got that flexibility. You can change out your map colors, show traffic, adjust volume, and things like that. Searching for addresses is easy. And because this is on your phone, if you search for addresses previously, all of your previously saved addresses or looked up addresses will show up. But my favorite to use on any device with CarPlay is Waze. And the big reason why is because as we zoom in or out, you can see so many things that are available. So you can see other Waze drivers, but people can mark off on the map if there's construction. You can mark up on the map if there's construction, police, if there's been a crash, hazards on the road, and things like that. So honestly, in my opinion, I personally love using Waze just because of the flexibility of being able to do that. So many options though. And then same idea, pushing and holding the voice command prompt on the steering wheel is going to launch into your Siri assistant. Now, they said there's so many options. Like even for audio, you've got podcasts that are available if you're a fan of listening to podcasts. There's Hoopla, which is a radio app, or I should say a library app. So that's available. You can use so many different apps through this screen. And then if you wanted to, you could jump into your settings. If you go into General CarPlay, find your vehicle, and then you can either forget it, you can customize it, and then make sure that you have that checked off to allow CarPlay while the phone is locked. Otherwise, if your phone's locked, it just wouldn't work. So you just need to make sure that that setting's enabled. But you can customize. So let's say if you're a big fan, like I am, of using Waze, you can drag that to the top. If you like listening to your audiobooks, you can also drag that to the top. Anyone with a minus on there, you can remove it from the vehicle. So just remove, there we go, and it's deleted it. But it is saved along the very bottom. So you could technically add these back in if you wanted to. If you've played around with the layout too much, you can just hit reset, and that just brings you back to the factory default screen there instead. You can hit the Genesis button there in order to go back to the home screen, hop back into CarPlay that way instead. But that's how you set up Apple CarPlay inside of the vehicle. Setting up Android devices is the exact same process. You can hit phone, and as of right now, I'm still connected to the iPhone. So hopping back home, go into your setup, device connections, and then you've got a series of different options here. We're going for device connections here, and you can see there that the iPhone's currently connected. We're just going to hit add new.
On from your device in order to search. On your device, select the name that matches vehicle name on the screen.
There, looking for G70, so that matches up. Perfect. And pins match up, so we're going to hit OK. Look at that. Fully connected here as well. And as you can see, one of them's marked 1 and 2. So you could also do a drag and drop there to see who gets connection priority. But one cool thing is that you can have one set up for phone calls and one set up for audio. So it's kind of neat. You can do a mix and match of these 4. So it's either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, but you can have a mix and match for phones there too, which is kind of nice. So if you've got one phone that has all of your audio, but one that you want to use strictly for phones or for phone calls, you've got that flexibility. But if you hop back home now, hop back into phone, you can see there, currently connected to the iPhone. You can swap out into either or now. So it's disconnecting and it's now connected to the Galaxy instead. So very straightforward doing that. And then very similar to the iPhone side of things, you also have the flexibility of using Android Auto, but it's USB.
Contacts download is start.
So same idea, it's going to say no eventually to that because I said no when I went to go hit it. But you've also got USB there for Android Auto.
Download was unsuccessful.
Because I
Would you
said
like
no.
to try again?
I do not, no. And again, just because it's not my vehicle. But you've got Android Auto. Next, and it'll take a second here. Look at that. Fully connected. Nice and quick as well too, which is great. But I mean, I love that. Google Maps, very responsive here, and it is pinch to zoom capability. That's one thing that I really like about Android Auto is that Google Maps is pinch to zoom. You have all the same functionality as well as we saw on the iPhone side. So you've got route options available there as to avoiding highways, motorways, toll roads, ferries, and things like that. So many options. You can search for addresses, change your heading this way, recenter it back on you. You've got all of your basic connection information, your map, podcasts, phone, Google Assistants available there as well. You can also push and hold the voice command prompt on the steering wheel to activate your Google Assistant that way. You can go full screen maps by pushing the map icon there. You can go there in order to go back to that split screen or to an icon view instead. And there are a lot of apps that are available on the Android Auto side of things. Not quite as many as what we saw on the Apple side, but still quite a few good options that are available as well. And then Waze is also available there too. But if you've got Waze installed on your phone and it's not actually showing up, you can easily set it up on your phone. So I've put together a walkthrough video explaining how that's done. You'll find it down in the description. But one other thing I'm going to point out is that you've also got the option of changing your Android Auto settings. So on your phone, search for Android Auto, look at your Android Auto settings, and when you do that, you've got a ton of options. So many options, but what we're looking for is the ability to customize. So you're looking for customized launcher, and that gives you the flexibility of adjusting. So let's say if you don't care about Google Maps there, but you want to have your reminders closer to the top, you can do that. And then there are other options along the very bottom, but it's not dynamic the same way it was on the iPhone side of things. So in order for any of these changes to come into effect, the easiest thing to do, just unplug your phone, plug it back in, and watch this. Second, hop back into Android Auto, and look at the icon view, and the changes that we made have now come into effect. So it's not dynamic the same way it was on the iPhone side of things, but still, that's a pretty useful feature. Then you can hop back home this way instead. Hop back into Android Auto if you wanted to. You can go Setup, Device Connections, and then you've got a series of other options here. So phone projection settings you can't use because I'm currently connected. So I unplug. Phone projection settings, you can now enable or disable Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. So if you wanted to be plugged in to charge up, you could disable it if you want. And then you could also, that's fine, you could also use the split screen. So instead of being full screen Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, you could do a split screen. Let me show you what that looks like quickly. So we'll go split screen Android Auto, plug in. There are benefits for sure of using it, but I'm personally not a fan of doing the split screen. Hold on, I'll show you why. So we've got a little split screen there. So you could still go like a full screen here, but then along the outside, there we go. can see there, a little split screen. And that works the same way on the Apple CarPlay side of things as well if you did the split screen. But I guess one of the big benefits is that, let's say if you wanted to listen to your radio this way while you're using Google Maps on your phone, you've got the flexibility to do it. Or if you wanted to listen to your podcast on your phone while you're also looking at factory navigation, you can kind of do a mix and match that way instead. And then just disconnect, phone projection, going for setup, device connections, projection settings. Yeah, like I said, I'm just not a fan of doing the split screen, but it's a matter of preference. Device connections for both phones that have been connected. You can then delete. You could mark all, delete, and yes. And 3, 2, 1, both phones are disconnected. And that's how you set up Android and iPhone devices inside of the vehicle. Hey, and hopping back home. Actually, you know what? Setup, there were 2 other things I think I wanted to show you here. So you've got your Bluetooth prompts. So whether or not you get prompts, yay or nay, but this is the big one. So Bluetooth system info. If you don't want the vehicle name to be G70, you want it to be your own name or something unique, this is where you're going in order to make it happen. So under your device connections, just Bluetooth system info in order to adjust that and add in a passkey if you wanted to as well for connecting. But that's how you set up a phone inside the vehicle. There are voice memos that are available. So if you wanted to record a voice memo to the vehicle, you've got the flexibility to do it. You can adjust some climate settings here as well. So you can see there, all of your climate settings are available. So you can easily adjust it up, down this way. You can sync the passenger side to whatever the driver's side is as well. You can put it into an auto mode, turn it off. Do you want it going to windshield face feet? A pretty wild combination of all of the above. And then you can also adjust your fan speed this way instead if you wanted to. There are other options along the outside, so defog, defrost, things like that. I normally just recommend keeping these ones turned on. And then you can go rear warmer if you wanted to turn on the second row heated seats if your vehicle was enabled with it, and switch back out to front climate. So you could use all of your different climate control settings there, but you're going to find all of the main climate settings just on the center stack as well. So you can also adjust it this way. Instead, you've got your basics there. So defog, defrost, heated first row seats, ventilated first row seats for driver passenger side, whether or not you want it going to your windshield face feet, adjusting the fan speed, and all of the other necessary info like heated steering wheel and things like that. Pretty straightforward. And then from there, hopping back home, let's see, valet mode essentially is going to let you lock the screen out. So if you're handing your vehicle off to a valet driver, they can't look through all of your settings. Quiet mode only plays the audio through the front speakers and it lowers it. So if you've got sleeping kids or sleeping grandparents, you can have that mode enabled. HD radio data is tied into the radio. So some radio stations, they essentially broadcast in HD. And that means that you've got your basic radio text and radio information there as well. So if the radio station is an HD radio, so if they broadcast digitally, it'll be able to download all of the basic information about the song that you're listening to. You could change between AM, FM, SiriusXM along the top there. SiriusXM gives you a few other options. So, I mean, you've got the song that's available here, but you can go channel list. So you've got all of the available stations there, presets that are none saved. So if you go AM, FM, SiriusXM, whatever the case may be, you can easily save stations in. So it's going to take a second in order to search. There we go. And you can see all the different stations that are available. So if you're new to an area and you're not sure what you can listen to, just go there, you can refresh it, and that's going to show you all of the stations that are available. And then you can just hit plus if you wanted to save a station in. So I've got some stations here locally that I'm a fan of. Let's go through and add in some of my usual favorites. So we've got a few different stations. We've saved in a bunch of different stations here. And one nice thing is that once the presets are set up, you could then go and push up and down on the steering wheel there in order to jump between all of your different presets, which is kind of neat. If you're on FM, you could also do a push and hold that way in order to jump between all of the active stations too, which is pretty nice. AM, same idea. If you wanted to listen to AM stations, your SiriusXM, look at your presets. You can reorder them as well. So you're just going to do a drag and drop if you wanted to adjust them. And you can also delete them. So if you've accidentally saved a preset, you could just hit delete. You can unmark, or you can mark all of them as well. So if you wanted to start from scratch. But that's the basics here. There's nothing too crazy. You can turn the display off. You've got the split screen capability, which you can also hit on the outside there. SiriusXM, and yeah, it's all straightforward. You can search for stations this way if you wanted to instead. But That's how you use the radio system inside of the Genesis G70. Next up, there are some options for media. So you've got FM, AM, SiriusXM, Bluetooth, USB music, sounds of nature. There are so many different options that are available. So I'm just going to plug in my USB stick here. So you've got just traditional USB, which is nice, down the center, and it should take a second for that to launch in. But yeah, there are so many different audio options that are available. So if we click on USB music, we got some music playing there. There are video files on this USB stick, but I mean, as you can see there, there's no video playback capabilities inside of this screen, but you do at least have a series of different media choices that are available. It's pretty solid. So many options. So many options. Hopping back home, we got setup, but before we get there, there's also connected services, notifications, and then just that QR code in order to get into the digital owner's manual instead. So let's hop into all of our different settings, and there are so many. You can search for an individual setting. So if you know what you're actually looking for, you can easily search for whatever setting. You can toggle the display off there. Starting off with vehicle, there are a ton of different options available here. You can hit the little swap icon if you wanted to go from this little interesting display view versus this view instead. So that one's a matter of preference, but this one kind of makes it easy to drive into that individual setting versus this, you just got a list view instead. Start off on driving convenience. Smart Cruise Control is available, and the Smart Cruise Control is set up just on the steering wheel here, so using the buttons along the left-hand side of the left pad. But if you want to walk through on how to actually use the Smart Cruise Control system, check down in the description of the video, but you've got basics. So how close or far do you want to be from the vehicle that's in front of you? How fast or slow do you want to accelerate? Highway drive assist, nothing exciting there. Speed limit warning, if you're going a little bit too fast, do you want to get a warning? Do you want the vehicle to automatically slow down for you? And then you've got a speed limit offset. So if you're okay with going 5 or 10 over or under the speed limit, you've got that flexibility too. So let's say if the speed goes from 60 down to 50, it can automatically decrease speed for you with the speed limit assist turned on. And then the opposite thing's true. So if it goes from 50 to 60, it can also increase your speed there too, but that's also based off of your limit. Warning method. So haptic warning is interesting. So certain things happen. You're going to get a little bit of a steering wheel vibration. So it's going to feel like you're running over rumble pavement, but it's essentially just a nice warning letting you know that something's going on. It could be somebody in your blind spot if you're changing lanes. There are so many different things, but you could turn that off if you want to. And driving safety and park safety priority. If you're getting closer to an obstacle as you're changing lanes or as you go to park, it's going to lower the volume if you've got your radio playing in order for you to hear the different warnings that are available. Driver attention warning. If you're driving and the car in front of you takes off and you haven't left yet, you're going to get a little notification letting you know that the leading vehicle has departed. Driving safety. Forward safety can automatically brake for you if there's a potential collision. Let's see, blind spot view monitor is a pretty neat one too. So utilizes the side mounted cameras in order to show you what's going on right inside of your blind spot. Now this is the 8-inch cluster screen, so 8-inch digital along the right side. But if you had the full digital 12.3 inch and you hit the turn stalk there, going left would show up on the left side versus right shows up on the right side there. I just love that it utilizes the side mounted cameras in such a neat way. So good. Blind spot safety, if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, you're going to get a little notification on that side view mirror letting you know that there's somebody there. And then parking safety, let's see, anything exciting there? Camera settings, you can adjust things like, so if we're in reverse, you've got your lines there. So as you go to rotate the wheel, what's going on? Do you want to get those guidelines, yay or nay? Rear cross traffic alert. As you're backing up, if there's somebody coming perpendicular, it can let you know of a potential collision for you there as well. And from there, so that's your basics for the driving convenience, driving safety. Look at that. We've gone through it all. Speed limit. So you'll see there, like I said, some of these things are going to be duplicated in a few different spots. So it's either going to be a list view or this view instead. Drive mode gives you a few other options. So custom mode lets you change up the mode itself. So there's a selector down the center stack there, and when you adjust it, that's going to change up what's going on inside of the cluster screen. So you can easily adjust out what mode you're in. But we're looking at the custom mode right now. And when you're in that custom mode, what do you want it to do? Do you want the powertrain to be Sport versus Sport Plus, so more dynamic driving? Steering wheel, you want comfort, so you have to throw the wheel a little bit more in order to be able to turn. Sport and Sport Plus stiffen things up a little bit more. So it gives you a way sportier performance, or handling, I should say, in comparison. And then your all-wheel drive comfort, how do you want that to feel? So sportier performance, but you've got that dedicated sport mode instead, but you can really customize it and make it your own. Coasting is a pretty neat one. So if you're in the eco mode, as long as you don't have the adaptive cruise control system running and you take your foot off the brake or the accelerator, so to say, for a second, the vehicle can coast. And like I said, decouples from the transmission there in order to improve your overall fuel economy. Active sound design gives you a little bit of, like, it plays through the speaker on the inside there. So it essentially is going to play sound on the inside to make it sound a little bit more aggressive than it actually is. It's pretty interesting. Then there's also the option for adjusting the cluster. So you've got illumination there, so you can adjust the brightness. You can adjust the brightness this way, and then also just by your left knee. There's also the flexibility of adjusting it that way instead. From there, you can also adjust a blue light filter. Useful if you're driving later on at night, because it's essentially going to reduce eye strain. So you can make it less warm or more warm. So it essentially gets rid of the blue light that you're going to see. You can have it automatically come on later on at nights, or you can schedule when it comes on. And then camera settings, what do you want showing up there? Which we've already seen. So again, certain things are going to show up in different areas. There's also the option for content selection. So what do you want showing up inside of the cluster screen there? So do you want that blind spot view monitor showing up? Yay or nay? Icy road warning. So wintertime gives you a little notification letting you know that the roads might be a little bit slippery. Climate settings that are available, nothing overly exciting. Just keep these things enabled. So auto defog, defrost, things like that. Seat position change is an interesting one. So easy entry exit for the seat and then for the steering wheel. So with these things enabled, what happens is, so you've got normal versus extended. So if you've got the steering wheel easy access enabled, when you go to turn the vehicle off, the steering wheel is going to push in. Same idea with the driver's seat. If you're normal or extended, when you turn the vehicle off, the seat is going to back up. So it makes it easier to get in and out of the vehicle. I'm typically not a fan of that one, but I mean, realistically, you do have your seat memory buttons there as well. So if you do adjust the seat in order to get out easier, you could just push in order to reset your seat instead. Different options for lights. So on your turn signal, do you want 1, 3, 5, or 7 flashes? Headlight delay, when you go to lock the vehicle, do the lamps just turn off, or do they stay on for up to 15 seconds? High beam assist is automatically going to dim your high beams if the vehicle recognizes somebody's oncoming. For door, when do you want the vehicle to automatically lock or unlock the doors? So safety, generally say, is never automatically unlock. If it's never automatically unlocked, when you go to turn the vehicle off, you just have to double click the door handle in order to actually be able to open up the door. And then for the front, do you want it either half open or full? Yeah, full open just totally makes sense. And then you've got the smart trunk and then remote window control. So you can use the key fob to do a few neat tricks. So let's hop outside and I'll show you how that works. So as long as the vehicle's locked, you have to get about 10 to 15 feet away for about 10 to 15 seconds. So as long as the feature's enabled, walk up towards the back end. You've got a handful of golf clubs, or you just did a crazy Costco run and you don't feel like pushing the button or you can't reach it. Watch this. Boom. Such a useful feature. And then just push in order to close. Straightforward doing that. You can also open it using the lift, or using the button there. So push and hold in order to raise it up instead. But so useful. And then there's one other neat trick using the fob, and that's the ability to roll the windows down. So you're going to push and hold the unlock button. When you do that, watch this. You could release the fob in order to stop the process. Push and hold again to continue. Down they go. That's really neat. I love those functions. So cool. The remote window control, one of my favorites for sure. Digital key. So you've got the flexibility of using your phone as a key instead. And then there's also a smaller digital key. So you'd be able to give that smaller one to a valet driver. But I unfortunately can't show you the actual setup process because this is a press vehicle. But I will link off to a Hyundai walkthrough showing you how to set up your smartphone as a key. But it's very straightforward in order to be able to do it. basic convenience information, rear occupant alert. If the rear doors are opened and you go to turn the vehicle off, it's going to tell you to check the back seats. Do you want to enable or disable the wireless charge pad down the center stack? Yay, nay. I know, that's the basic there. Series of other options for navigation. What do you want showing up there? Point of interest icons. Do you want to show traffic colors and things like that? Route options. Do you want the fastest, most economical, or highway preferred? Nothing overly exciting there. Alerts, nothing exciting. Map mode. Do you want to get 3D? Do you want to be in your 2D mode instead? I tend to prefer the head-up 3D, but that's going to be a matter of preference. Let's see. Oh, what's the other one there? Auto scale. So that's automatically going to zoom in or out as you get closer to obstacles. You can change up the map color. So as of right now, it's milk. You can change it up to black, mocha, cafe. It's so good. Or just your milk, so you're white instead there. Navigation auto features. I don't think there's anything exciting there. Oh, previous destinations. That's a useful one. So you could disable this one. So if you never want any of your previously gone to destinations saved, just deselect that one. And then every time you turn the vehicle off, it's going to automatically get rid of any previous destinations. GPS information. If you're going somewhere and you've kind of gotten lost, you can call a tow truck if you needed to, or you can find out your exact GPS coordinates. And yeah, that's the basics of nav settings. Sound, a ton of other options here. Startup volume limiter. So if you have the volume cranked and then you turn the vehicle off and then back on, it won't be cranked. So it's going to limit the startup volume. How do you want the audio positioned here? So driver focused, passenger focused, rear focused, etc. But you've also got the flexibility of doing a fine tune this way. So if you really want it focused more on the driver or the one side, you've got that flexibility. Or if you wanted to go a little bit more front or rear focused, you could do that too. Adjusting the treble mid-range bass. In this car, I found the treble down 2. The bass cranked by 4 tends to give really good audio, in my opinion. Guidance, same idea. Do you want to mute certain things as you get guidance volumes? Active sound design, which we've already seen. Radio noise, nothing exciting. We've already seen all of these priority warnings. Sound settings for Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. So do you want media or voice guidance to be at certain levels? For both. Oh, the beeping that we're getting here. We go sound. If that beep drives you nuts, you can toggle it off. You've got device connections, which we've already seen. So if you had devices connected to the vehicle, you can see, or you can change your vehicle name that way. User profile. So if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle, you can easily change out the profile that you're using. Voice recognition. So this is the voice assistant. So you hit the voice command prompt. You can see what the commands are. So actually when you hit the prompt there, hit commands.
Here are some available commands.
You can do
in this screen,
so
voice is not
many
recognized.
different things inside the vehicle. So change songs, radio stations. You can adjust your climate using the vehicle. You can open and close the windows using the vehicle. You can open the trunk if you wanted to. Turn on the heated steering wheel and so many other things. So I honestly recommend when you get your Genesis, go through there for a second because there are so many cool things that you can do inside the vehicle. Oh, the one I would recommend actually, reduce the number of prompts. So if you tune to 94.9 FM, it just does it. So rather than telling you it's going to do it, it just automatically does it. So reducing the number of prompts is the way to go for sure. You can also adjust the screen layout. So if your display is off, there's nothing there. But you can have a digital clock or an analog clock. So let's go watch face if you wanted to adjust that. And then, back into settings, display, turn the display off. Look at that, got that watch face instead. So you've got the flexibility to be able to adjust this out if you wanted to. Actually, that was screen layout, not display. None. Split screen. If you've got split screen enabled, what do you want showing up? And in which order do you want it showing up? Buttons, there are a few unique buttons that are available. So there's one down the center stack there, and then there are 2 on the steering wheel. And what do you want these buttons to do? So if we go custom button down the middle there, what do you want it to do? Nothing? Do you want it to turn the display on or off, go into quiet mode, go home, and things like that? So if we go display off and we hit that button, toggles the display off. And then for the steering wheel, if we go to the custom button on the steering wheel, what do we want that to do? Cancel the route, go home, privacy mode, reject calls, and things like that. So let's actually go home. That could be a useful one because we hit that now. That brings us back to this home screen. Button press again in order to go to that screen. If we hit the mode button, that gives us other flexibilities. So if we go back into our buttons, and the mode button is this one on the steering wheel. So if we go mode, what options do we want it jumping in between? So if you tend to listen to these different options, you can hit the mode button to jump between all of your available audio sources. And then you've also got your up-down keys, and that's these ones here. When you adjust it, do you want it to change the preset or the station or frequency? The volume rocker there, do you want it adjusting the volume on the left or the right side this way? So you can do a swap there if you wanted to. So it essentially would be there. What's it going to do? Climate, nothing overly exciting there. Oh, actually, the climate actually is an interesting one because there's haptic touch that's available. And the reason why that's interesting is because as you tap on the screen, there's an actual physical touch that you get. So a little bit of haptic feedback, letting you know that you're touching things on this digital screen. It's actually kind of neat. It's very subtle and it's just on this main part, but it's kind of neat that that's available. Connected services are there, and then general settings with a few basics. So you've got your software information, system info, nothing exciting there, date and time. Honestly, always just recommend setting it up automatically. Oh, that's grayed out because you're automatic, but if you wanted to manually set the date and time, you could. Do you want it adjusting for daylight savings time, yay or nay? And then your time zone format. So do you want the 12 versus 24-hour mode instead? For your language, do you want to be English, French, Spanish, or Korean? Change out your keyboard. So do you want QWERTY versus ABCD? Measurement units is kind of neat because you can adjust your measurement units this way. And when you do, it also tweaks up some things inside of your cluster screen. If you were in the cluster with the full digital, it would also change up your speedometer there as well. But because we're analog, you can see your miles and kilometers per hour there instead. But you can adjust all these things out. Even changing out Celsius versus Fahrenheit. So as you adjust that down the center, you can see it automatically adjusts it that way. And then if you're miles per gallon, you can go miles per gallon, kilometers, liters, etc. And then how do you want your tire pressure measured? Media options. Do you want your radio off when you turn the vehicle on? So if you've got your radio cranked, turn the car off, turn it back on. Do you want your radio playing, yay or nay? And then reset. You can delete just the driver profile or reset all. So if you're selling your vehicle, you can bring it back to the factory default there instead. And then the only other thing to point out are going to be the buttons down the bottom. So you've got your volume rocker. You can turn the audio on or off this way. There's a tuning rocker there. You can do a hot button press down to get to your maps, to get to your navigation menu. There's the custom button that we set up to turn the screen off. You can seek as well. So if you're in the radio, you can also seek stations this way. And then you can do a press and hold if you wanted a quicker seek. You can hit radio to jump in between all of your available sources. And then you can also hit media as well if you wanted to jump between different media sources. So you've got a ton of different options there. And then hopping into your basic setup screen instead. So I know that is a lot of information, but that's everything that you need to know about the infotainment system inside the Genesis G70.